Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, and welcome aboard the Surprise, the Admiral Hipper herself, lead ship of her class in its 1942 configuration. And this German Tech Tree heavy cruiser is the last one that we will visit in our journey of our 5.7 heavy cruisers. And this is the one that I like most. Well, the class itself, because to be honest, I prefer the Prinz Eugen, because more AA, more torpedoes, but the rest is the same. And I also prefer it over the Admiral Graf Spee, despite the massive firepower that on paper the 11-inch guns provide. But here we are in the heavy cruiser department, and they deal with 8-inch caliber, with the exception of the Soviets that have, with the Maxim Gorky, with the Kirov, and with the Voroshilov, 3 ships with 180mm guns that are somewhere between the effectiveness of 8-inch guns and 11-inch guns. I'm not kidding. If you are interested in this, go back on my channel and watch the respective videos. But what makes the Admiral Hipper so good? Well, it's the mixture of capabilities, firepower, and just sheer style, together with massive survivability, which is tricky and not straightforward. And this ship kind of tells you a story of size matters. And as you can see, the first one that I target here, right from the spawn, it's not a destroyer, it's not a light cruiser. I need to dig my teeth in some serious armor, and I am really mauling this pre-dreadnought hard. Fighting pre-dreadnoughts is always kind of iffy because you draw their attention and they shoot back with, you know, their 12-inch guns, and they have no problem going through your armor, but most of the time they only have 4 barrels with a reload of 30 seconds, and they have also dispersion issues, to which we will come on this ship as well, because as great as it is, you need to fight the big boys, not just because you can, but because big boys are big, and so you have a higher chance of hitting them where it hurts. Because I've cut out a large portion in this battle where I just fire salvo after salvo, and I just straddle destroyers or hit them with ammunition where it doesn't hurt, despite aiming for their ammo racks. It's not a question of, you know, DPM, it's not a question of gun handling, it's not a question of the shell velocity. No, all those things are really good, together with the penetration values, and more on this later. But it's just simply the dispersion is so brutally nerfed, and this can be a bit frustrating on the ship. But overall, this is still my favorite, together with a lot of the Japanese destroyers, such as the IJN Myoko. Okay, let's quickly go through the armor, because this is the first thing that you have to go for in order to understand the ship. We have a belt of 80mm behind a torpedo protection system that has value of 250 kilograms. As far as I understand, if a torpedo has a TNT equivalent yield of, let's say, 300 kilograms, then this gets subtracted and you are left with a yield of 50 kilograms. Could be true, could be worse, but this is how it kind of felt in the past when I hit other cruisers with torpedoes that don't have the respective threshold yield. Anyway, so we have a distributed armor scheme, and where the magazines are, the machinery to the rear magazines, we have a belt of 80mm, and behind this is the famous and infamous turtleback of 30mm at a constructional armor slope angle of 48 degrees, as well as the deck armor being 30mm. Now this is not really that thick, right? Then we have the barbettes with 80mm, and we have then also the front armor, right? What I always call bulkheads of 80mm. And the Admiral Hippe has a double bulkhead, where one is between the first and the second turret, Anton and Bruno, and yeah, that doesn't seem to help that much. But again, this ship is really hard to ammo rack at times, right? And then you have the bow section with between 40 and 20 millimeters. The turret faces are rather flat, but 160 millimeters thick. And yeah, then at the rear we have extension of the main belt with 70 millimeters, as well as then, interestingly, 50 millimeters of deck armor above the rudder. So there is that, right? This ship is huge. It has a weight of 18,000 tons. As far as I can tell, only the Des Moines as an actual heavy cruiser is heavier with roughly 20,000 tons. And even the Graf Spee has less weight with 16,000 tons. So you can see this is a huge ship, but that means also that the distance between the main belt and the turtleback entrance, so to speak, is so big that the main belt, although not always capable of actually stopping the shells, will ignite the fuse and it will explode harmlessly above the turtleback, and the splinters getting absorbed by the turtleback, as well as maybe some other internal armor plating. And this explains a lot about the observations of the ship being so damn durable if you angle it. But then you always come across some freak shells, right? So the armor is really something to behold. Then we have a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, and we also have torpedoes that I quickly want to talk about, and they are the main difference, in my opinion, when it comes to the offensive firepower compared to the Prinz Eugen, because we have two triple launchers per side of the 533mm G7A torpedoes, which you can have in two settings. You can have the short range setting, so without the torpedo mode, which gives you a maximum speed of 81 kilometers per hour and 6 kilometers distance, and you have a TNT yield of roughly 360 kilograms of TNT. Not the most massive ones, but you have a lot of them per side for a single salvo. So overall you have 12 torpedoes. The Prinz Eugen has a couple of reloads, giving it a total amount of 26, right? Yeah, the firing angles are right, but they are mounted midships, so they get hit often and easily by HE shells. Where they get disabled, you have to go through the repair cycle. But, for close encounters they are great. For long range, not so good, because then they have only a range of 6 kilometers, but they are substantially faster with 81 kilometers per hour instead of 56. No, sorry, that was wrong. With the torpedo mode, they have a 14 kilometer range and 56 kilometers per hour. That's right, yeah. And so you can technically launch them into the enemy spawn while then turning away and making it really uncomfortable for the enemy to shoot you. Talking about shooting, finally let's come to the firepower, and this is where you could hopefully observe this in this battle right now, where I mauled and destroyed 2 pre-dreadnoughts and also have no difficulty whatsoever to go through armor of other heavy cruisers, even at long range. And that is because we have here the mighty 20.3 centimeter -60 SKC-34 cannons, and we have them in 2 twin turrets forward and 2 twin aft, and we have them in super firing arrangement, so quote-unquote classical heavy cruiser arrangement, and they have a reload of 12 seconds with no ready rack actually, which is really good, because then also if your barbettes get hit and penetrated, it increases the reload, but it doesn't cost you any ammunition, and so you're constantly firing at the enemy. And the firing angles are alright, and we have then the most outstanding AP round of any heavy cruiser, and that is the 20.3 centimeter L-4.4 MHB AP BC, which is actually an AP CBC round. We have an insane muzzle velocity of 925 meters per second. We have a TNT equivalent bursting charge of 2.65 kilograms, which is really good. there are ones with better ones, but they don't have the penetration, which at 1,000 meters is 426 millimeters, and at 10 kilometers still 235 millimeters. Yes, I know, small numbers compared to what's coming in terms of battleship with next batch, but you know, we're talking about heavy cruisers. And there is only one ship in this category that has more penetration, and that was the Kirov, which even surpasses the World War I German 11-inch guns at 10 kilometers, and you know, has also a respectable bursting charge. But here is the actual secret, what makes the Kirov class really frustrating and the Prinz Eugen so satisfying, but on the other hand also potentially frustrating, and that is the fuse delay. We have 0.035 seconds. That is good enough, or perfect actually, to go through thick armor and into the guts of the enemy ship, causing massive damage. But it leads to a lot of over penetration if you hit armor that is just good enough to hit the fuse, because the shell just passes right through the ship and explodes on the outside if it's a really narrow target with weak armor. But here is the thing, the difference is that the Kirov class has the 0.01 seconds, so you have 3.5 seconds the fuse delay. So you're really terrifying for angled targets, for targets with thick armor, or for thick targets. And because those shells just really hurt a lot, and they are what set the Hipper class apart. Then you have the stock HE with 8.88 kilograms, which is not the best. I think the HMS London has 10 kilograms in its HE shell, but still, you know, you have a lot of them. 8 per salvo and 12 seconds reload, giving you a really good DPM, 40 rounds of DPM. Not the best. Miyoko and Kirov are around 50, but yours is sustainable because you have enough armor to not be knocked out by HE destroyer shells, right? And for the anti-destroyer, anti-light cruiser work, you know, where your HE doesn't have enough smack, but your AP is over-penetrating, you have the 20.3 centimeter L-4.7 BDZ MHB SAP, and that is an SAP BC round, and that has a juicy 5.35 kilograms of TNT, 925 meters per second muzzle velocity, and at 10 kilometers still a respectable 135 millimeters of penetration. But it has the same fuse delay. If the fuse delay would be more on the Kirov's level, it would be better, you know, for the destroyers and such. And then, as you can see here, we have another ship that suffers a little bit from the same problem, and that is that the AA isn't that great. Now, the AA is, you have 6 twin 10.5 centimeter -60 SKs, C-33s, and they help you a lot versus destroyers and even light cruisers at medium to short range. They are not so good in the AA role because they don't have proximity fuse. The rate of fire is still high, but then you have the problem that you have on the Admiral Hipper, unlike the Prinz Eugen, no 40mm Bofors, and the 3.7 SK C30 mountings are god-awful, and while the Flak Vierlings, the quadruple 20mm, are great, they don't have the range, they don't have the stopping power. And so, yeah, the AA is a little bit on the weak side. But what we have is a fast, durable, big ship with serious firepower that you cannot also threaten at close quarters because it has the nuclear threat of the torpedoes on board. This is great at short range, this is great at medium range, and great at long range. This is a really great cruiser, and this also is kind of reflected in the question, what battle rating should it be? Should it be 5.7? Should it be 6.0? We will find out in the future because there are also a massive decompression at our hands, but this is also why I wanted to finish the series with this ship. Now, Germany has also this really weird thing going on in the tech tree. Now you have the Admiral Hipper and the Prinz Eugen at 5.7, and you know, you can understand their rating. But what's wrong with the Admiral Graf Spee with its 11-inch guns and technically thicker armor, also at the same battle rating with heavy secondaries, right? Is it fair? But at the same battle rating, we also have the Nürnberg, a really flimsy light cruiser where the guns are alright, but the rest of the ship is just not good, right? Because the armor is so laughable, it can be easily outgunned by destroyers. So this is where Germany 5.7 is really crazy. Now with this video, I end the series through or the journey through our 5.7 heavy cruisers, and I hope you enjoyed it. I have taken a little bit of a break, and a couple of announcements are here to go. First of all, I'm just a couple of days away from 10 years of daily logging in. That is massive, and I should be given a badge of dishonor for that because that's the ultimate shame display, right? The next thing is that I have some other huge announcement in a very positive way for my channel, so stay tuned for more information. And yeah, that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.